The four talks we've heard during the symposium have been touching upon the self entangled with identity, domesticity, collectivity, virtuality, justice, language, etc. Despite our speakers having many things in common, few of them are as visually vibrant as Sophie Douala. Her work mixes the painful with the colorful, politics with beauty, in a way that feels deeply personal, but at the same time open and inviting to the audience. A tangle of cultures translated to a distinct and engaging visual expression. Sophie is a Berlin-based French-raised and Cameroon-born artist and creative director. She specializes in storytelling and creative campaigns, and her work is currently shown at the Stedelijk Museum in Amsterdam. In her work and life, Sophie seeks to explore the interplay between a formal visual language and its cognitive and emotional effects. As the closing visual fireworks of the festival lineup, we are very excited to welcome Sophie to the stage and to learn more about how and why she inserts herself in her complex and immersive work. Please give a big hand to Sophie Douala.
Thank you so much for the introduction. It was really nice. And hi, everybody. So, yeah, my name is Sophie Douala, and I'm a visual artist and art director based in Berlin. And currently on the screen, you can see some of my work. It ranges from brand identity to print design to digital work to installations. I think a whole range of visual art. And I'm really happy to be here, especially to participate to this chapter about the self, because my practice is very personal. So my practice is very much tangled with myself. And the notion of self is something that I think about often in my practice. So as I was starting to work on this presentation, I was thinking as a starting point to define the self and the practice so that I understand the relationship between the two and how they work together. And when I talk about the self, I mean it in a way that is more philosophical. So, not so much about my personality traits, but rather like what's inside my shell and, yeah, what's behind my body. So, I would describe myself as a guide, a mentor, a best friend that's always been there, a trust relationship, but also I want to make sure that I'm not glamorizing that story because the relation with the self is very much full of highs and lows, of fears and doubts and insecurities. And I would describe my practice as a playground for myself. My practice illustrates highly my personality um, and my values. So thinking about practice and self and how they influences each other and all the confluences with each other, I started to see a more multidimensional connection, which made me think to reflect on this relationship through time, space, and distance dimensions. So that's the title of my presentation. So, what is my story and what did I learn during my journey? This is what I want to share with you today. And let's start from the beginning. So, yeah, let me introduce you to little Sophie. She was probably 7 or 8 years old on that picture, living in the suburb of Paris, right before we moved to the countryside. And she is already a big dreamer. She dreams without boundaries. And really lucky that my parents never made me feel like my dreams were silly. Like when I was 15 and I told them that I'm moving to New York to learn English and to be au pair. They didn't think it was so weird because I think they could already see that I had this eager of discovering the world. It didn't happen, but yeah, they encouraged me, and I'm getting to realize now, through time, space, and distance, that being a dreamer is probably one of my best qualities. And I believe so much in what I dream that it gives me the confidence and the strength to move further. So manifesting and being confident, I think being confident in what you do, I feel is very essential in the journey of the practice. But the misconception is that being confident is having no doubt. And I feel like the beauty in being confident is being vulnerable. I think insecurities and doubt can also be fears that drives you. Like typically me being on the stage right now, I like to share my stories, but I'm always very shy to have a lot of eyes on me. But this shyness also drives me to be here and kind of excites me in the way that like I I can do it. I'm gonna do it. So I think being a dreamer and having vulnerabilities is something that is constantly nourishing my practice and perhaps even at the origin of my creativity. So as soon as I was able to break free into the dreamland of adulthood, I did. And then came the reality, of course. Many side jobs, canceled projects, working like a maniac, no money. The struggle is real. But I'm very happy to share now that it's been 1 year since I created my side job and that I'm fully living out of my practice. Woohoo! So the struggle was real, but slowly I feel like in my journey I was planting some seeds. And planting some seeds, it's a metaphor that I use often and I really love. It's a way of like the places that you go to, the people that you talk to, what is going to be your, what are you going to leave behind? And typically, you can go to a place and have an interesting conversation, and this may evolve into something in the future. But some seeds that you're going to plant in the journey, they will never make it. And some seeds may take years to grow into a beautiful plant. So I feel like it's about being a patient gardener. So yeah, thank you, little Sophie, for your dreams and your patience. I also feel like I started to navigate my practice better as soon as I got more curious with myself. Because understanding myself better made me want to connect with my community. And by community, I mean people who have stories, wishes, values, hopes that I can relate to. It was whole a transition of self-realization, but I can pinpoint to one very particular moment of enlightenment after breakdown, sadness. It was in 2020. It was after the murder of George Floyd. This really affected me because, you know, you can go into your day-to-day life and sometimes you're gonna just protect yourself by avoiding to think about stuff. And that's what I did in my journey. I protected myself by not thinking about where I come from, my story, my origin, what happened to me in my life. So after the murder of George Floyd and the and when the Black Lives Matter movement arose or was more vocal and more present, this is the moment where I decided that I am going to be more vocal and that I'm going to use my practice as a way to share my story and share the story of my community. So the example of project that you see here, they illustrates that. Uh, it's projects that are um, range from uh, it's projects that like are connected to equality, they are connected to diversity, they are connected to heritage, they are connected to love. So yeah. I also realized recently that my practice had become a healing tool, and through the process of those collaboration and those network that it creates, I am growing into a more fulfilled version of myself. I am learning so much through my practice, and my practice is constantly evolving through me. So, to synthesize about this journey, what did I learn? Uh, Keep dreaming without boundaries. Never let anybody to tell you that your dreams are too much, non accessible. You are the only one in your head, and you're the only one with the power of knowing what you can do and achieve. Keep being vulnerable. Vulnerable is a strength. It's okay to have doubts. It's okay to not be sure. It's okay to ask for help. Trust your instincts. Trust yourself. This is this voice in your head that is going to lead you. It's important. Follow it. That's all you have. And support your community. I found that, like, for me, working with and for my community is the best act of resistance that I can do to fight a system of oppression, because this is where I can have an impact, and this is this is where I can actually have an impact. Period. So yeah, I selected a few projects, so now it's kind of running as a loop, but I have a few more slides of like specific project that I can talk about more in depth in relation to what I said. So I was kind of thinking actually to start with I can post this. I was actually thinking to start with this one here, which is one because it was used by the team of Post Tangle in their promotion, and this is a video work that I did uh, for a panel that I was part of at the Kunstinstituut Meli of last year. It's a institution in Rotterdam, and we had a panel on the topic of affecting graphic design and demodernizing design. So basically as a designer, like this process of like relearning or unlearning, also as a person, uh, relearning, unlearning, better learning. And it was the first panel that I was part of. This time, this one is the second one, and I was very afraid that I won't be able to say all the things that I wanted to because I was very shy. So I worked on a video with a friend to say some stuff. So I thought I could show this video as a first project. I think it's the next slide. Hi, my name is Sophie Douala. I'm a visual artist and graphic designer based in Berlin. I was born in Cameroon and grew up in France. My work is an ongoing exploration of sensations, feelings, and concepts. But also, when working with clients, I try to reflect on their intentions and messages and translate that with a graphic language. Observe, state, question, the essence, interpret, intention, represent, perceptions.
What is your approach to design?
My journey is part of my personal identity. And as such, my work is a mediator of that same identity. The way I approach design is to question. Through this curiosity and openness, I find progress. My experience has taught me that collaborating on branding is not only a series of negotiations, but also an exchange of shared values and identities. Is my work ethic a magnifying glass of my own quest of identity? Is it a way to claim my space? To fight against the lack of representation I have suffered from? Perhaps. Within my work, I found a craving for building communities, challenging the status quo, and pushing boundaries.
Thank you so much for the nice reaction. Yeah, it was very cool to be able to share present that video in the context of an institution. It was the first time that yeah, my voice was that they wanted to hear my voice and what I had to say, and to be able to bring I think more context to an institution is always very interesting, and also maybe some just backstory about just the project itself. I think for me, it's always very nice to find any opportunity to do collaborations with the people around me. So I worked on this with one of my best friend, Ron Rad, who is a sound designer and musicians, and we worked on this together. So that's always like really cool to try to bring the personal also into the workspace. And it was also the first time that I kind of experienced with how would I call that? Multimedia design, kind of. This was all, as you could see, it was all made in like one take. It was a screen recording of my computer. I already had everything prepared, all the notes and all the videos. And I also like to put myself or to present myself almost as like an alter ego. So yeah, I think it's also a way to have like many different characters and to take different yeah, to take on many characters, but also kind of like to put myself into my own world. My work is mainly digital, so I'm a little avatar of my own work. Um, yeah, so this is like one project that I was excited to talk about. I don't know, maybe I can also just like take question like each time I move to a project. If you have, for example, question on this, let me know. No questions. Um, I think the next project that I want to talk about is my book. This one is also available to sale in the back. It's called In Memory of the Present. And I have a slides about it. This one. So, In Memory of the Present, I had the chance to, it's a risograph and design studio based in Slovenia who reached out to me, and they edit artist books, and they came to me with the possibility of doing a book together, and I was very much free to do what I wanted. They said that I could just put some of my existing work. I could just yeah, play with the formats. And yeah, once again, I wanted to take that opportunity to do something interesting and to involve people from my community. So I actually don't communicate often about like the beginning of this project, but I think in this context it's quite interesting. Um, I Each time I have like a new project, I always often brainstorm also with my friends. My friends are creative, so it's always nice to have inputs. So I was brainstorming with a friend, and then we started to discuss about the seven virtues and the seven sins, um, which, as you know, were initiated from Christianity, from religion. But when you think about it, a lot of those notions are also present into our cultural space, such as kindness, humility, patience, but also envy, pride, greed. There are notions that like you want to, I think you want to teach your kids if you have some eventually, or you want to like think about them for yourself. So we were reflecting on this, that those notions are quite interesting, but obviously in the context of the religion, they are missing out of diversity and of point of views, of stories. So I decided to invite 10 creatives and friends around me. Also, actually, my grandmother is part of this book. She's 96 years old, by the way. And I sent them the list of the seven virtues and seven sins, and I proposed them to contribute with anything from a song, a moment that they lived, an experience that they went through. So it could be very much anything. And the idea of this book is not to make another like 10th commandment or like a way of like act or what things that you should or shouldn't do, but it's actually more about like personal story sharing and telling like things that are, you know, that marked you in your journey, and maybe this can help someone, or maybe this can inspire someone. And yeah, I have to say I was very emotional when I worked on this project, also because I don't often do self-initiated projects. I often work for another company or brand or an institution. So this was really like my baby. And each time I started to receive stories from my friend, I had to cry, because I was just like, that's so cute that like people are sharing things with me that is so personal and so beautiful. So maybe I could read one story from the book. I don't know. There are many stories that I like. Maybe I will read two stories. I can read. Yeah, and maybe something else I can say while I'm flipping through is that yeah, I barely touch the text that my collaborators sent me. Sometimes I did, but the most important thing that I worked on were the titles. The titles were what linked the or binded the books together. But the titles were obviously in relation with the text. So maybe I will read you one story that is here. I will read you this one. It's called Trust Your Truth, and it's by multidisciplinary and friends Rabbi B. And it goes as: one summer, my father, one of my little sisters, and I took a trip to a small amusement park in Toronto. As we were making our way to the entrance, we saw a man in a wheelchair fall off the sidewalk. My father immediately ran to help him, and I instinctively held my little sister's hand. He saw someone in need and trusted us to be alone for a couple of minutes. Even though we were young, I felt gratitude for my dad's reaction. That moment reminds me to not think twice about offering help within my capacity. So I think this book turned out to be a kind of a feel good book, you know, like when you a bit sad and you want to watch like a rom-com to feel better. Well, you can flip through the book and get cute inspirations and memories of someone's life. I'm also gonna read this one, which is by also friends and multidisciplinary artist Gal, and I name it "My Pleasure, My Pleasure, My Power," and it goes as: "Who eats alone dies alone." I grew up in a Moroccan house where food was always shared in an abundance. Prepping food solely for myself without the ability to share this source of power and pleasure evokes me evokes to me a certain sadness. I perceive the act of cooking and eating as generosity, as an ability to share with the one who lacks, to encounter people, to share and exchange stories and energies. So yeah, this is a very special project for me. Also, very happy to collaborate with this Slovenian Rizo collective. They told me that it was definitely challenging to produce this book because normally you would use one or two or three color, and I literally used like all the range of colors that they had. So it was, yeah, but they also said they really enjoyed to be challenged in their own practice as well with collaboration like this ones. So shout out to them. They're called Look Back and Loaf, and their website is .com. Yeah, so the book is available behind. You can also just yeah, of course, just flip through, and there are all the details of the publishers and everything in the back if you're interested. I also don't know how much time do I have. 10 minutes? Okay. So what else can I talk about? No. I have a few more possibilities. I'm just thinking which one. Yeah, I think this one is kind of cool. This was a series of illustration that I did for the platform It's Nice That. They reached out to me to do a branding on a series of articles that they were launching. I have actually, sorry, I have to go back to the previous slides. Yeah, exactly. So because you can also see it here, it was on the top right. It was about the topic of conscious creativity. So basically like how as a designer or a brand or a creative, you can design more consciously. So yeah, and here the reason why I thought I would talk a bit about this, because often people ask me also like what is the process when I create an illustration, and I think here the example they illustrates a little bit, like you can see a little bit of the process, and that it has meaning behind what you see, that like the first step is really like the message and what we are trying to say, and my illustration come as like a way to amplify that. So for example, you had one article about Joshua Kissy on representation and the danger of a singular story, and you can see how within the illustration I've tried to emphasize, like I am not a figurative artist, of course. So you could imagine if they would have asked someone, figurative designer, they would have probably worked on an illustration showcasing many people. But in my case, I always like kind of see, I try to translate the text or the language into more of an abstract feel. So the danger of a singular story here, I'm trying to play with different shapes and try to have, yeah, add like some nuances. Yeah, why do we judge creative decision as simply good or bad? Same here, like I'm always trying to think of it like with keywords. So good, bad, like there is this sort of mirroring, same but different, but same. Yeah, how to become a B Corp. Tom Tapper takes us through the process. And B Corp is basically like any companies who want to be like super sustainable, uh, equally gendered and all of that. There is this, yeah, you can get this certification to be a B Corp. And here the process is actually very complex. So that I was also trying to emphasize a sort of like, growth and like slowly but surely expanding into something better. Yeah, so I think I can, just wanted to give a few examples about the process, and maybe 5 more minutes I can pick one more project. No, I only have one more. Yeah, actually this one also very very important for me. I was very lucky to be working on the brand identity of the season 2 of Essential Stories. Essential Stories is an online media that talks about women in sports, and it was initiated by Isaura Tibus, who became this year the world champion fencer. So congratulations to her. And she contacted me after they launched their first season to work on the second season, and here we were also like working together on like how to bring the voice of this woman in sport and to change the narratives, how women are presented. And I think something that is also important for her is that often sportives are maybe not asked so much about their opinion. It's like you do sport and that's basically the only thing you're good at. And she wanted to change this narrative, say that like women in sport can be entrepreneur, they are also mother, they can be like so many things. So working on this branding was super nice. We worked on different format of like interview and quotes and news, and also what was really really fun was also to work on the colors and what colors we wanted to use in the branding that were uplifting, but also like grounding. So we went for a lot of like brown and blue, like natural earthy tones. And maybe I can just then conclude this talk with showing you one of the interview. It's 3 minutes or something, and it's quite interesting.
So you have your foundation, like to help the youth, but also like the young girls.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? Like, what happened? What was the goal with this foundation?
So the biggest thing, again, I've been running track since I was 9, and thinking about my experience. And I'm from New York City. There's a ton of Olympians that have come through New York City. I don't have the experience or the memory of any of those Olympians. Sort of, I like to use the term being a tangible resource. It's huge for me that at 10 years old, I knew I wanted to be an Olympian. And so if I had that vision at 10, then I think about the 10-year-old girls that are out there. So thinking about that, but thinking about what I felt like was missing from my journey. Thinking about the fact that I've never had a female coach. So even the idea of a young girl going through puberty and now as a woman training on my cycle and competing on my cycle, how do you navigate those conversations with a male? You know, how do we get more women into the coaching spaces, the athletic director spaces, the agent spaces? And so I really wanted to do something that would kind of empower women, empower young girls to take autonomy for their lives and be empowered with information. So we've created a curriculum that's not only surrounded by self-affirmations and self-love, but even educating young girls about their bodies and about puberty and about the options that they have. Because, you know, we get to college and here in the States, it's like, here's birth control. This will regulate your cycle and this, but then there's no conversation about, you know, the hormones and what side effects are available or are possible, or even the notion of, you know, losing your period because you're so small. And it blows my mind that even as adults, some women aren't privy to the information that we should know about.
I'm like, I want to go back to 10 and go to your program and learn all over again. I didn't learn that either.
Yeah, like, so just I believe that, you know, knowledge is power, and the more information that we're able to give our young girls, the more, you know, it's, for me, it's not telling them what they should do, but it's letting girls know the information about their bodies, letting them know the information that's out there that they have access to so that they can make better decisions for themselves.